This is insane. In an effort to become anti-racist, you become racist.
Facts, truth, facts and truth.
And the truth shall make you free.
Foolishness du jour. I got to take a breath because what I'm about to share with you, I'm just going to tell you, it makes me very angry. And maybe because it's a little bit personal for me because of where I am, and maybe I'll share a little bit about that with my family, things that we're pursuing. But here we go. Bethany Christian Services. Bethany Christian Services is one of the largest adoption and foster care agencies in the country. Let me be specific. Christian adoption and foster care agencies in the country. This is one of, and I'll explain to you why I'm saying one of, this is one of the Christian adoption ministries who face the ire of the move across the country to establish anti-discrimination policies, laws, etc. Because Bethany Christian Services, which has offices all across the country, they were sued specifically in Michigan by the ACLU in 2017. Why were they sued? Because Bethany, as a Christian adoption and foster care ministry, had a policy that embraced the biblical teaching on identity and sexuality. So Bethany refused to adopt and place children into the homes of same-sex couples. The ACLU sued the state of Michigan's health department at the time on behalf of two same-sex couples, claiming that the state's contract with services like Bethany that did not place children in the homes of same-sex couples was engaged in discrimination in violation of state law. Now, of course, as with many states, the state of Michigan had this anti-discrimination law, but they had exceptions because there's this thing called the First Amendment, that you have organizations that are Christian organizations that have statements of faith that adhere to biblical orthodoxy. They cannot be compelled by the state to violate their conscience and their religious beliefs. The state does not have the wherewithal to dictate to the church doctrine or church polity. That's the whole purpose of the First Amendment. All right? Mind you, in the state of Michigan, Bethany was only responsible for placing 12% of the state's foster children. And there were many other agencies in the state of Michigan that did place children with same-sex couples. They didn't claim to be Christian adoption services and organizations, and they placed children there. Also, there had not been one case in the state of Michigan where you had a same-sex couple that sought adoption or a foster placement that had been denied. There was not one. There wasn't one. Nevertheless, the lawsuit being filed in 2017, Bethany settled the lawsuit with the ACLU and the state of Michigan by abandoning their biblical convictions on this issue. And in 2019, they agreed to begin placing children. Now, hear me well. This Christian adoption and foster care ministry, as of 2019, agreed to begin placing children in with same-sex couples. Spokesman for Bethany in 2019 said this, and he said this to the Detroit Free Press, quote, "These days, families look a lot different than they did when we started. And Bethany is committed to welcoming and serving all of them. The need is great, So we're taking an all hands on deck approach, end quote. Oh yeah? Well, I guess all hands don't need to be on deck when the nation is being swept in the fervor of Crow Jim. What's Crow Jim? Oh yeah. Crow Jim, you remember the Jim Crow era in the United States of America, largely in the South. Following the Civil War, there was some in the South who still didn't want to come around to the idea that more melanated people were equally human as less melanated people. And so they developed an entire battery of laws collectively described as Jim Crow. Well, now, Crow Jim is sweeping the nation in the name of, you've heard it before, anti-racism. Anti-racism. See, it's not enough for you to not be racist. You have to be anti-racist, which means that everybody needs to become a political regressive activist. What is happening now? Well, Bethany Christian Services, this is the name of this company, this organization, guys. Bethany Christian Services issued a report called, quote, What the Pandemic Taught Us, Innovative Practice Report, end quote. In Bethany's Innovative Practice Report, they've announced, I can hardly get this out. They've announced that they will no longer place more melanated children into foster or adoptive families of less melanated parents. Sherry Williams, vice president of Bethany Christian Services, told the Associated Press that allowing white families to adopt black children from the foster care system, quote, can cause a lot of harm to children of color, end quote. Did y'all hear what I just said? Oh, she said, allowing white families to adopt black children from the foster care system can cause a lot of harm to children of color. So in an effort, this is what they said, guys, that in their long-standing effort, I want to get this, say it exactly how they said it. Exactly how they said it. In their, quote, long journey toward becoming an anti-racist organization. They're changing their adoption policies. And so to do so, they are now lobbying to change federal law. There's a law called the Multi-Ethnic Placement Act, which bars discrimination in placing children in an adoptive family. Now Bethany is opposed to this law. Guys, I'm telling you, sin makes you stupid. So you literally, you literally have an organization that when you have desperate children in the foster care system and those who need to be adopted, you mean to tell me you're more than willing to allow those children to languish in the system than to be adopted by a family because of their skin color? How is that anything but Crow Jim? This is insane. This is insane. So the same organization that previously had convictions based on the scripture that recognized that the best environment for children to thrive is in a family where you have a husband and a wife. There's all manner of social science that serves to support the reality that that is the best and most ideal environment for a child to be raised. And more importantly than the social sciences, you have the Word of God. This same organization now, we're not content with abandoning the truth of the scripture's teaching there. We'll now go further into abandoning the scripture's teaching and to say that now, because the MEPA, the Multi-Ethnic Placement Act, said you cannot consider skin color in placing children because the focal point has to be what is in the best interest of the child. But we have these regressive people, and it includes those who profess to be believers, but they have not the backbone nor the boldness to stand in the face of a hostile culture and say, I don't care what you guys say. That there is truth, the truth that transcends the fickle nature of human beings flowing to and fro with every whim and turn of regressivism. But they will now say that they are willing to allow children to languish in the system because they don't have the right skin color. This is unconscionable, people. If you're paying attention, you'll notice that regressivism consistently is willing to harm, jeopardize, murder, experiment, mutilate, and abuse children, all in the name of a popular regressive social engineering. This is insane. In an effort to become anti-racist, you become racist. I can't tell you the numbers of people that I know who have adopted and have fostered children and have rescued them out of horrendous circumstances. You mean to tell me because the parents who have prayed and saved money and volunteered and opened their hearts and opened their homes to their children, but Bethany will now say, no, that's not enough. And if you, Sherry Williams, are going to say that placing children in a home where the parents may have a different skin color because that might harm them, what's next? Is marrying somebody of a different skin color something that's harmful? How far are we going to go with this? Sharing the same water fountain with somebody with a different skin color, is that harmful too? You know, David Duke surely has a nice warm seat for you to sit next to him. What is wrong with you people? What is wrong? This is insane. These people have gotten many in our society so twisted and bent over a barrel where you have completely abandoned all manner of reasoning. Do we need to talk about the statistics of children in foster care and those who need to be adopted? Don't get lost in the sauce where you can no longer see the children. I did the video about don't kill the babies. You're talking about all these rights, this person's rights, this person's rights. What about the baby? And now, Bethany, what about the children? So you're content to let a child, let's say you don't have enough applicants with the skin color you want, but you got a bunch of different people with different skin color. You're going to let the child languish in foster care because of that? Really? If you will do so, you need to remove the word Christian from your name now. You need to do it now because that is not the love of God. That is not the heart of God. This is Crow Jim. Wake up. Wake up. What is going on? In a long journey to become anti-racist, you become the very thing you're trying to avoid. The very thing you're trying to avoid, that you should be trying to avoid. This is insanity that has gripped our country. Insanity. And maybe this is hitting me extra hard, you know, because the Lord has moved. For years, my wife and I have prayed about adoption and understanding the theological significance of what it means to be adopted into the beloved, and recognizing that as an answer to this crisis of children being slaughtered in the womb, more Christians should be opening their homes and opening our hearts to children. And to go and learn this, man, this is heartbreaking. I'm seeing real children in my mind who I know need a loving home and a loving family. But in our long journey to become a more anti-racist organization, we don't want to do harm. So you're going to let them stay in foster care? Who has bewitched you? Who has bewitched you? Guys, this is Crow Jim. This is why I've told you and I've warned you that people that are adopting these ideologies, they're saying it's for conciliation, but that is not what they're seeking to accomplish. And that is not going to be what's accomplished because the people who fomented these ideologies, they created them to divide. They created them to divide. And that is exactly what's happening. This is unconscionable. I mean, their statistics. I'll share this one with you. The American Enterprise Institute did a study. The authors of the study are Mark Montgomery and Irene Powell. They did a study because they wanted to analyze empirically. Is there any impact when you have a multi-ethnic family as a result of adoption? The parents are one ethnicity, the children are a different one. And guess what they found? You already know what they found because it's common sense. But I'll share it with you just because this is a study that the social scientists already know about. They concluded, quote, empirical evidence on, this is the word they use, transracial adoption suggests strongly that black children adopted into white families suffer no more developmental or adjustment problems than black adoptees in black families. You want to know why? Because they're people. How can you come to this conclusion? There's already a small number of more melanated families who adopt. And so the people that are going to suffer from this are the black children. Because Bethany is saying, well, in order for you to be adopted, you got to have a person of a certain skin color. And I guess the same is true in the converse. That if you have a more melanated family and there's a less melanated child that need to be adopted, I guess Bethany would be against that too. Because it's amazing. In an effort to become more unified, more whole, and more one as a nation, we're going to stratify along the lines of skin color, even along something that is as important and significant as a desperate child needing a home. We're going to allow skin color to be the deciding factor. I mean it. Take the word Christian out of your name because that is not the heart of God.
Why do repressive governments fear religious freedom? Because it challenges the authority of the state more than any other freedom. People who adhere to a religion believe that there's something higher than the state, and no repressive government can tolerate such a belief. That makes religion the first target of those who want ever more power and ever more control over its citizens. That's why, even if you're not religious, if you care about freedom, you should care deeply about religious liberty. Because when they come for your religious freedom, they're coming for all of your freedom.